Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is John Seiberlich-Wheeler, and I am a facilitator for Men Evolving Nonviolently. I've been doing it for several years, and today I'm going to make a presentation with my partner, Bill Talley, and we're going to do a role play together where I play the role of a new group participant who's coming to Men Evolving Nonviolently for the first time to receive support, and Bill is going to play the role of a group facilitator and do a demonstration of how we welcome people into the group and a little bit of the material that we cover.
Well, thank you, John. I'm Bill Talley. I'm a volunteer facilitator for Men Evolving Nonviolently. And what I'm going to go over today is timeouts. Timeouts are the crux of our program, especially when you're first starting M.E.N. There's 14 different topics in that one a week for approximately 14 weeks. The first one on there is timeouts. When you join our group, though, the topic will be whatever it is that night. So we will go over before group or on the telephone when we interview you before you come. We'll go over exactly what timeouts are. And I think what I'll do is just give a brief rundown of what a timeout is, and then I'll put the screen shares up. A timeout is when you recognize that you're about to get out of control, you're about to act out, you're about to yell or scream or anything like that. When you recognize that, immediately take a timeout. And it's just like, for those of you who have kids, it's just like having your kid take a time out because he's been, beating on his little sister or whatever. The purpose of this is to keep you safe and anybody you're interacting with safe. And so once you realize you're going to take a time out, you announce that to your partner. I'm going to take a time out. I'll be gone for an hour. There's the 7 Ds. Don't drive, don't drink, and don't do drugs. Go to a park and walk around or whatever. Generally walking, if you can exercise, that's great as well. In the middle of the timeout, you can, once you're settled down, we have what's called an anger journal that I'll get into later. And also there's the M.E.N hotline where you can call and talk with a facilitator like me or John. And if at the end of that you don't feel safe to go back, then call your partner, tell her you're going to stay out another hour, and repeat the process. That's it in a nutshell. Basically, this here is our weekly topics. You see timeouts is the first one. And anger journal is also in here. And then here is what our new men's handout talks about, which is how to stop the violence, build trust, gain a sense of personal control. Because what you need to realize is once you start acting out, it's certainly okay to have anger. It's okay to be frustrated. What's not okay is to act out and have behavior such as hitting, yelling, screaming. And so by taking a time out, you're keeping your control. Otherwise, you've given your control away to your partner. And you guarantee that the escalation will not lead to hurtful or abusive exchanges. This here in the box is a critical thing as well. We have a book, Learning to Live Without Violence. The first chapter of this gets into timeouts, and what we advise all you new men is to take that chapter and read it together with your partner. That way, when you do take your time out, she's not going to feel abandoned, or she'll know what's going on. Okay, so that's the basic logistics of the timeout. Mm-hmm. Now, the next question is, how do I know to take a time out? Well, if you're already yelling or screaming, that's a damn good time. But what we want you to do is to take it in advance of the inappropriate behavior. In this little bullet here, it talks about whenever you feel your anger cues, teeth gritting, muscle tension, and think you may become violent. And by violent, we don't mean just physical violence. We mean any type of abusive behavior, any behavior that your partner would say that is if they feel abused by. As soon as you become aware of that, that's when you take a time out. The statement is, I'm beginning to feel angry and I need to take a time out. I'll be back in an hour. If it's not anger you're feeling, if it's something else, you can always just say, I need to take a time out. I will be back in an hour. Then leave for an hour. As I said, don't use alcohol, drugs, drive. And call the hotline, return in an hour, check in with your partner. If you both feel comfortable doing so, discuss the source of your anger and other feelings. That is in this handout, but I find that 90% of the time, that's not a good time to discuss with your partner. It's much better to ask your partner if she wants to discuss it. If you feel in control enough to discuss it, ask your partner if she says okay. And if you both agree, you can. But typically what you want to do is make an appointment with her to discuss the issues at a later date. Mm-hmm. In fact, John, maybe you can have some input here. When your partner comes up, you've raised your voice a little bit, and your partner comes up and says, John, you need to take a time out. What do you do?
Well, in a best case scenario, I would take a time out. Personally, I have had trouble with that. I don't like to be told what to do, so it makes it hard. So for me, it works a lot better if I can be the one who recognizes it.
Exactly. And I do the same thing. It's very hard. In fact, I just talked to my wife Linda about this, because I get reactive when somebody tells me to take a time out, but that absolutely is the absolute best thing to do, because obviously if somebody's telling you to take a time out, you need to take a time out to keep the situation safe, because they are not feeling safe. Otherwise you're going to lose your power, like we discussed. Oh, another thing is practice timeouts. And if you don't practice taking a time out, you damn sure won't take a time out when you really need it. And the practice is simply, you're not feeling angry. You just, until your partner, I need to take a practice time out. You can discuss in advance how long practice timeouts will be. And say it's 30 minutes, then you return in 30 minutes and check in. Also, the timeouts, as you proceed with our program, you can modify the length of time that you're gone when you take a time out upon agreement with your partner. It all depends on your personal circumstance. Next, we have this timeout contract. And this is for the practice timeouts. How many times a week will you do it? And you'll do the anger journals while you're taking the time out, or in addition to taking timeouts. Talk with your partner about your agreement with timeouts. Keep a packet of blank anger journals with you to write down what's going on. And I'll get to anger journals in a second. This is also in the anger journal, but it's really good here. How's your body feeling? Exactly what are you doing? And that's being able to sit back and see, even though we all, men will go immediately to, she's this way, she did this, she. If you can find the silver lining for yourself, what you did that was beginning to make you heated, or what you did to exacerbate the problem. And I find myself saying out loud, I find myself saying in my head, I find myself saying, oh, she's a bitch, she's out of control, blah, 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 blah. And then in your head, you'll also do negative self-talk. And all of that, you can get into more details in the anger journal. I will take a time out by saying, I feel angry and I need to take a time out. I'll be back in an hour. leave the house, or go do wherever you're going. This is a repeat, basically. Call the hotline or somebody who's been in the group a while. Write your anger journal and go back home in an hour. Okay, here we go. This is the anger journal. Situation. John, can you think of a situation that we could do an anger journal on?
Yeah. So my partner promised that she was going to do the dishes, and then I came home after a long day of work, and the dishes were piled high, and I felt really angry.
Okay. So it started by the fact she didn't do the dishes.
Or we might even say it started when I expected that she would.
There you go. And what did you do other than, you said you felt angry?
Yeah, well, I gave her a dirty look and made a passive aggressive remark, and I said, you promised you were going to do this, and then you didn't. So
right.
We could say I made a remark. We also could say I blamed her.
Right, exactly. Okay, and how did you stop it?
Well, I noticed as I was saying these things that I had a headache, and I felt some tightness in my chest, and I was gritting my teeth. And so I stormed into the other room and went, "Ugh!"
Good. And then you take a time out. Or you should have.
Yep, that would be the point at which, when I recognize these things going on, I want to say, I need to take a time out, and I walk out the door.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Negative self-talk?
So just negative things that would be going through my mind would be like, I can't believe that she did this or didn't do this. And I might even catastrophize and say, how is this ever going to work out when she won't even keep small promises?
Right, right. Catastrophizing, I like that. On this anger journal, you can write down whatever you were doing, the gesturing wildly, I've been there. Verbally short, pacing, yes. Following a partner from room to room is called the chase. And that basically is what ended my first marriage. If you find yourself wanting to just make your point and are following your partner to do that, turn around and follow yourself outside. Announce you have to take a time out and go outside and take a walk around the block and be gone an hour. And during that hour, you try to get in touch with the feelings underneath the anger. And typically it's going to be hurt or fear. It'll be one of these. And then you can, in this process, you're going to review the situation, see if you escalated it. John, you escalated it by, I think you said some type of snarky comment or something.
Yeah, raising my voice and having an aggressive tone and making an accusation and conveying blame. All of those things would escalate that situation.
Right, right, exactly. Especially the tone, I think. And did you take a time out? Yes. Did you work on positive self-talk?
Yeah, so when I took my time out after I groaned in the other room, then I started talking to myself and realizing, okay, underneath the anger, I'm feeling scared. I'm scared that our relationship is too contentious to make it work. I'm feeling sad that I might have to do extra work with the dishes, and I'm scared that I might not be able to control my anger, and so I feel a little bit ashamed about that. And so some positive self-talk, I want to do some things that could counter all of those situations, which is to maybe acknowledge to myself, yeah, I did lose my cool, but I also took a time out. And so that's evidence of my progress. So that's some positive self-talk. And maybe reconsider the automatic thoughts I'm having about blaming my partner. Maybe she had an emergency at work, and that was more important than washing the dishes. And I appreciate that she works so hard. And you know, that I'm scared there are too many problems. I want to remember that I always have power to put some effort into the relationship and see what happens.
The thing too with positive self-talk is if you have a tendency to go into shame, which is basically feeling, you know, like if I went into shame, I would feel like, oh, I'm such a horrible person, such a bad person, I really screwed this up again, yada yada yada. And then I have to remind myself, well, that's not me. The core of me is fine. I'm a little diamond out there. It's just that behavior. It's just my behavior was not appropriate, but I'm still a good person. And that's a good mantra for anybody to have.
Love that.
I don't know where we're going to be, who's going to be looking at this and when, but if it's somebody who's interested in M.E.N, please keep us in mind for help with anger issues and relationship issues and domestic violence issues. Our number is 707-528-2636. We're located in Sonoma County, but during COVID, we're doing everything over Zoom, so you could be anywhere. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching this. Bye-bye.
That's it. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.